This video is sponsored by Squarespace, an all-in-one platform to build your website and run your business. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing the 4 items that I regret buying on my zero waste journey. So before I get started, a couple disclaimers. This video has been going around on YouTube for a little bit, but I wanted to make my own because I feel like this is such a personal topic and it's fun to see like from person to person what they value and what they think they don't need. Other than that, I'm definitely not zero waste. I like to say this in all of my zero waste videos, right? I consider myself low waste, but low waste isn't really a good search term on YouTube and it doesn't get recommended in the algorithm. So thank you for being understanding in that regard. It's really sort of impossible to create zero trash or be zero waste in our current society because we live in a linear economy, not a circular one. But that's okay. And I feel like I've been trying for the past 5 years to reduce my waste, and I have been, so that's why I continue to refer to myself as zero waste on YouTube, even though you guys know that I'm low waste and you are too, and that's all good. So all that being said, let's get into the video. So the first zero waste item that I regret buying is a collapsible cup. This one is silicone, and as you can see, it has like so much gunk on it because it just like attracts dirt and dust. I don't know. It's kind of like that kind of silicone that just things stick to. And I originally purchased this, I want to say in like May or maybe even April, because I was going to an event where I wasn't allowed to bring a reusable water bottle to, which is kind of stupid to me, but I wanted to be able to have something that I could put water in if I got thirsty. So I ended up purchasing this and I thought, well, maybe if I like it, I can share it on my YouTube channel. You know how that goes. And as you can see, it just collapses like this. So in theory, this is cool, right? I feel like I thought that it would be really great for travel, and I just like the idea of it. And for that event that I was talking about, I wanted something that was small enough that I could just fit in my jacket pocket so that I didn't have to like bring a purse too. I just wanted to just have my jacket and have this in my jacket and whatever. My first mistake was I bought this at the store without bringing the jacket that I was wearing to the event, and when I got home, this big thing didn't even fit in my jacket pocket, so I couldn't bring it anyway, which was a bummer. And other than that, it just is sort of gimmicky. Again, if you have one of these and you love it and it helps you reduce waste, that is great. Like, no shade, no tea, that's not what this video is about. I'm just saying, you know, I'm just sharing my personal experience. It's a little gimmicky for me. I feel like over time, sort of like the ridges right here, the part that collapses, are a little bit thinner than the other parts of silicone, and I feel like they would break down over time. And it also came with a plastic sleeve, which honestly I've misplaced. I think it might be in my car. But yeah, I just really haven't used this the way that I thought that I would. And I just prefer my stainless steel cup like this. Even though it is larger and maybe harder to travel with, it's really not that big and it's really not that hard to travel with. So I prefer this because it's honestly so much easier to clean than this guy. And yeah, it's just what I go for. Also, I recently saw a video that Ari Jackson did on BuzzFeed about, I think the video is called like trying to go clubbing and making no trash or something. And in that video, she had a collapsible cup that was much smaller than this one, and it fit in her back pocket. And that's sort of like what I wanted this to be like. I feel like, I mean, I don't like go out much. Definitely I don't like go out clubbing, but if I did, I would probably invest in something like that I could just slip in my back pocket, and not something that had like a big plastic rim like this that was so rigid. So yeah. The next thing that I regret buying is bamboo cutlery, and this is probably definitely an unpopular opinion, but it's my opinion that I'm sharing with you, so you know, whatever. I personally don't reach for these very often because I find them much harder to clean than just normal cutlery that I have in my kitchen. Specifically the forks. This is like a child size set that I bought a while ago. I think it was like these 3. I actually don't mind these as much because they're so small and they're kind of cute, but That the size aside, the forks I find are pretty difficult to clean, especially if food gets dried in them and I don't clean it out completely after I'm done using it. Like if I'm out somewhere eating and then just need to throw this back in my bag, I find that it's pretty hard to get the dried food out from in between the grooves here when I'm home. And obviously I can't throw this in my dishwasher, so if it's dirty in my bag and I forget to clean it, it's sort of like a whole thing, right? I prefer to just use the cutlery that I already have in my kitchen, and what I do is I'll just take a little fork or spoon or whatever and I'll wrap it in a reusable napkin and just tie it with a rubber band. And I really like this option for me because it keeps everything really clean. Another thing with the bamboo cutlery is that it just comes in a little flap thing, so the sides are exposed, and I mean, stuff's like touching that, and I don't know, I think I'm weird about germs, but I like that my cutlery that I wrap in my little napkin stays completely covered when it's in my bag. And I like that I can then use the napkin and wash both items when I get home. Yeah, it's just easier for me. So that's what I prefer over bamboo. But I mean, I totally understand why people like bamboo. It's really light, it's easy to travel with, but I've also traveled with my fork from my kitchen drawer and had no issues. So again, it's totally personal preference, and that's mine. Okay, the third thing that I regret buying is, do you hear that? I regret overbuying these straws. This is sort of embarrassing. Just dropped one for me to show. This is my reusable straw collection. Does any one human need this many straws? No. Obviously, I live with my husband, so he uses them too, but even when we have people over and they need a straw, like I never have this many people over at one time. For me, for a while, when I would go thrifting and I would see packages of new straws, I would be like, oh my gosh, it's so great, I need to buy them. So I did that for a while, and then I realized it really isn't serving me to have such a huge collection of straws. And I get this question often, like, how can minimalism and zero waste go together? This is an example of how it doesn't go together. Buying up every straw that I see at a thrift store because it's like zero waste, right? I feel like that's actually really doing a disservice to my community, because then if someone who isn't me goes into a thrift store and is looking for zero waste items, they're not going to find it because I've bought up every reusable straw that was at the thrift store. So I think there's a lot to be said about leaving items at the thrift store, even if they're cool. If you don't need them, you need to leave them, or I guess I'm talking to myself, I need to leave them so that people, other shoppers who come to the thrift store, can find these great items at a low price. So that's just something to keep in mind. Just because something's cool and is at a thrift store doesn't mean you need to buy it, because there are other people in the community that could probably use it also. So that being said, I do use my large glass straw for smoothies, so that's one that I definitely love. As you can see here, and I've talked about this straw in a favorites video before, my Simply straw, small one, I love for coffee and for using with my little pint cup. And then also these clean canteen straws are really useful because I know people who don't like to use the hard metal straws because they're scared they're going to hurt their teeth or whatever. So these are great because they come with a little silicone topper. But then for me, like even if I wanted to use this one with my pint cup, I could just take the topper off and use it that way. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like multi-purpose. So overall, those are the ones that I love and use all the time. This was a big pack that I got at the thrift store, and I do use these, but I don't really need them. So maybe I'll give them away to someone who will use them, but that's definitely something that I regret buying, is just like overbuying straws, or I guess it could just be like overbuying anything. Reusable bags, we all have so many, right? Even like reusable cups and stuff. I only use the couple that I use, and I feel like it's important to remember that you don't need like so much of everything, and you can still be zero waste and keep things pretty minimal. Okay, and the last thing that I regret buying, I actually don't have to show here because I haven't repurchased one in a while, and that's shampoo bars. And again, this is so personal, and I know there are so many of you out there that use shampoo bars and love them, and that's amazing. Like, that is such a great zero waste item. I just personally haven't found one that works for my thick, dry, curly hair. I don't like how they make my scalp feel. And even if I've used them and not liked them, I've given them to Nick and he like doesn't like them either. So I've just had to come to terms with the fact that I don't like them, and that's okay. I buy my shampoo in bulk and that works for me. Even if it's not a completely plastic-free option, it is more sustainable for me than buying a bunch of small plastic containers, and that's okay. Going back to what I said at the beginning, like, it's impossible for us to make zero trash, right? For me, it's just really about making smaller changes in my day-to-day life so that I stick with them, right? And sort of going towards that goal of making less trash. And so that's what I encourage you guys to do too. Yeah, don't focus on having to buy like all the little gimmicky zero waste things, right? Like, we don't need all these little things to make less trash. You can just use a cup that you have in your kitchen already and bring it to your coffee shop instead of buying a fancy collapsible one. So just keep that in mind when it comes to the idea of zero waste. Obviously, like, buying a bunch of new stuff really sort of defeats the purpose of making less trash. Obviously, trying to buy secondhand when you can is a great option to reduce your waste as well. But yeah, those are all the things that I personally don't love or sort of wish that I didn't buy. Let me know in the comments below if you guys have anything that you sort of, maybe something that's like popular, but something that you don't like in the zero waste world, and maybe some things that you do like too. I'd love to hear about them because it's just so interesting to see everyone's different opinion. And yeah, I'd love to hear in the comments below. Thank you so much to Squarespace for sponsoring this video without interfering with the content. I don't know about you, but I've had a variety of business and entrepreneurial pursuits over the years, and with each project I told myself that this was going to be the day, the month, the year that I finally taught myself coding so that I could build my website and really put myself out there for success. I wish I had photos, you guys, of these websites that I've built myself in the past, but just believe me when I tell you that they were bad and confusing, and on my end, extremely difficult to manage. I'm not a coder, and honestly, I don't want to be one, so the result was I would end up buying really expensive custom templates for my very DIY website, and I would pour hours of my time into trying to make it look professional. The unfortunate thing was it never ended up looking the way I really wanted it to, and I could have been spending that time perfecting my craft and my personal talents. So fast forward to today and Squarespace. Their platform is all in one, so you can get your domain, build your website, sell product, and market yourself all from one place. So if you want to try them out for yourself, you can go to squarespace.com for your free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Alli Cherry for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.